This is our garden on campus. We have a lot of different stuff growing out here. We've got some Three Sisters beds, we've got gourds, cut flowers, cucumbers, lots of tomatoes. We have Indian melons, pumpkins, cantaloupe. We have a medicinal plants bed out here also with tobacco, yarrow, different medicinal plants. One of our master gardeners is a pepper expert, and he gave us these really cool purple ones. I haven't tried them. I don't know if they're hot yet, but they look nice. Our ultimate goal out here with the garden and the greenhouse is obviously to teach students. We're on a college campus, so we're going to teach them different gardening techniques. A lot of students don't have access to a greenhouse ever, so it's good to get them in here and get that experience for them. On a larger scale, our ultimate goal is to start a Muscogee heirloom seed program. So we're growing a lot of culturally significant plants in here, tobacco. We have a couple purple whole peas, pumpkins, different kinds of corn. So we want to start the plants in here, get them out into the garden and harvest the seed, and eventually distribute that out to Muscogee people, especially people who live in rural areas who don't have access to a lot of grocery stores or community gardens. We want to provide that for them while also teaching the students at the same time. You know, we all know plants need water, but plants also need food. Plants need nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and different chemical elements in order to grow. Ideally, you would fertilize when you notice nutrient deficiencies in your plants. So when you're looking for deficiencies in your plants, you're going to notice nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium right away. So for nitrogen deficient plants, you're going to see this, the yellowing of older. This leaf is at the bottom, it's an older leaf. That's a dead giveaway of nitrogen deficiency. For phosphorus deficiency, you're going to see something like this. It's going to be purple of those older, lower leaves. It usually starts on the edges, on the margins, and moves toward the middle. And then for potassium, it's kind of similar to both of these, but you're just going to see yellowing of the older leaves. But instead of starting on the leaf, it's going to start in the leaf veins. So once you notice your deficiencies, you're probably going to be curious about what types of fertilizers you can use. So there's commercial fertilizers and organic fertilizers. Commercial fertilizers are what you can buy at the store usually. There's going to be slow release, like this. Osmocote is a really popular slow release fertilizer. It's going to come in granules just like this. Basically, you would sprinkle this on the surface of your soil, and these are going to slowly degrade and release nutrients into your soil. You can also buy liquid fertilizers like Super Thrive. These usually come in a grow and a bloom variety, so one for when your plant is small and a seedling, and then once it's big and flowering and fruiting. Liquid fertilizers are more readily available to the plant, so you're not going to have to wait for a liquid fertilizer to break down and degrade into the soil. The roots are going to be ready to absorb this up. For organic fertilizers, there's things like bone meal, wood ash, compost, regular gardening debris. Those are also good sources of fertilizer. Just like the Osmocote, you're going to have to wait for those to degrade and break down in your soil before it's available to the plant. The amount of nutrition you're going to get from an organic fertilizer is going to be slightly lower than what you're going to get in a commercial fertilizer, but it's more natural and it is better for building up your soil. Once you're in the store buying your commercial fertilizers, you're going to pick based on your deficiency. All fertilizer labels list the same order of ratio. So the first number is going to be N, nitrogen, P, phosphorus, K, potassium. It'll be the same order on every label, every nutrient. So this particular nutrient has 7 parts of nitrogen by weight, 9 parts of phosphorus by weight, and 5 parts of potassium by weight. So this fertilizer has more phosphorus than anything else. So if you're buying fertilizer for phosphorus deficiency, this would be a good choice because it has a lot of phosphorus. So if you're seeing those yellow edges on your plants, this would be a good choice to correct that deficiency. I'm going to show you guys how to mix fertilizer, just so you make sure you're giving your plants the right amount. You don't want to over fertilize because that could damage your plants. It could cause irreversible damage to your plants, but it can also make your soil salty, which is also damaging to plants. So one of the things I recommend getting is one of these. This is called an EC meter, an electrical conductivity meter. It's basically a way to measure how much nutrients is in your water so that you're not overfeeding and you're feeding enough. You can find these on Amazon. I think this one was like $90, but there's cheaper versions of it. So most commercial fertilizers come with recommendations, usually in tablespoons or milliliters, of how much you should add. I usually eyeball it because I've done this a lot. So I just do small amounts. This is probably more than enough for this picture. Just a splash. And we'll add some water. Give it a good mix. This device makes it really easy to measure the amount of nutrients, so you'll just stick it in. I always go by EC, electrical conductivity, and it's gonna flash. So right now it's flashing between 6 and 8, which means it's 0.7. Ideally for plants in your garden, you're going to want to go 1.0 to 1.5. That should be plenty. Anything below that is also acceptable. Anything above that might damage your plants, so I wouldn't go above 1.5. So we'll just do a little bit more. And we're at 1.0, so that's perfect. So now we'll take this out to the garden and we'll fertilize some of our plants. So this bed is full of tomatoes. They're still in a vegetative phase, or the leafy phase. There's not a lot of flowers. So this is hopefully going to help with that. We've already mulched this bed, so one helpful thing to do is just move your mulch to the side so you can see the soil. And then I just pour the fertilizer directly around the root zone of the plant. Give it a good drink. Push the mulch back over and move on to the next plant. So when fertilizing your garden, one thing you want to avoid is over-fertilizing or applying too much fertilizer or applying fertilizer too often. Over-fertilizing can cause nutrient burn on your plants, or it can cause the leaves on your plants to turn brown and crispy, and that kind of damage is irreversible. Over-fertilizing can also damage your soil, so it can cause your soil to become salty, which is also damaging to plants. So there's commercial fertilizers like the slow release Osmocote and the liquid Super Thrive. There's also organic fertilizers like compost, bone meal, wood ash, different things like that. The good thing about organic fertilizers is that they improve your soil quality. A downside to an organic fertilizers is that they require soil microbes to break them down in order to be available to the plants. So it takes a little while for organic fertilizers to be available to your plants. Also, the quantities of nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus in organic fertilizers is a little bit lower than in a commercial fertilizer. So if you're trying to correct a nitrogen deficiency or a phosphorus deficiency, it's going to be a little more difficult with an organic fertilizer because it takes so long and because the ratios are so low. There are certain things in your compost or certain organic matter that is high in things like phosphorus. I want to say things like ashes, bone meal, eggshells, things like that are going to be a good source of phosphorus and potassium for your plants.
It's Jay. I'm glad all of you are able to watch this. So I want to talk about Hiji. That Heska Hiji, what it is. They used to call this a long time ago, but today we call it Hiji. But anyway, this is a thing. The stories, Mvskoke story, is that this is all about love. It was a time when a man and a woman, young couple, got together, and then wherever they laid, there was a plant like this that grew up. And the man would go by there, and every time he's on his way to the ceremonies, he would get a leaf. And then later on, these flowers started coming, and people were beginning to taste it, and they liked it, and they wanted to give it a warrior name, and this is how they decided to give it Mvskoke name. So that, but later on they call it Hiji. But it's all about love, and it's the origin of it. It's love, and so from there on, the history is that they would always share this with other tribes whenever they created an alliance. And they made their nation stronger with creating confederacies and things. So they helped themselves with this plant here. It's beautiful.
Hello everybody for watching the Muscogee Gardening series. If you want to come out and get some hands-on experience, do some hands-on gardening, we'll be here at the College of the Muscogee Nation in the garden every Thursday throughout the growing season from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m.